Good morning, Year 6. Hope you're all well. So welcome to your day of computing. We start our computing lessons by having a little bit of a sort of a thought around internet safety, how to protect ourselves online. And so for today, I really want us to think about when we feel a bit worried or concerned about something on the internet, what do we do? So we're going to think about worries and our concerns, things that make us feel uncomfortable, frightened, sad, worried, and what we can do to protect ourselves and to help each other. And so the first thing I want you to think about are when you use the internet, what sort of online worries might you face by using the internet? So I'm just going to pause the video, have a little think to yourselves, have a discussion on your table. What sort of worries might you have? Okay, so some worries that children might be facing at your age group. A lot of things are here to do with cyberbullying, trolling, things of that nature, where people feel that because they are online and they aren't in person, they can do and say things that they wouldn't necessarily normally do in the real world. This is obviously a big problem at the minute. Lots and lots of things happening around the world with people saying unkind things to each other, thinking that they can say those things because they're on the internet. So that's a big concern for a lot of people. Other people also might have worries about their privacy and having accounts hacked into or having sort of personal information sort of broken into and shared with other people. So how you protect yourself online is quite an important thing as well. So what I want us to do is to help us to sort of get a head around what we can do. I thought we could take part in a little class survey. So what we're going to do is, I've got here a couple of questions and some options. I thought what we would do is I'd read out the question, and down the right hand side here there is some options of things that you can do. If you agree with that option, you can put your hand up. If it's something you think that would apply, put your hand up. Okay, and you can do more than one, and we'll see as a class what we think would be the right thing to do. So the first thing is, if you saw something upsetting online, would you do any of the following? So put your hand up if you would tell a friend. Put your hand up if you would tell a parent or a carer or maybe another family member. What would you put your hand up if you would tell a teacher, so someone at school. And what about another trusted adult, someone else who we haven't mentioned? How many of you might try to go and report the app or the game or the website? Okay, how many people here would report it to the police? I wonder how many people might just ignore it. And you might not know what to do. So put your hand up if you're not too sure what you do. And then the last option is the other. So you might want to pause the video and talk about anything else you might do that hasn't been covered yet. Okay, so these are some options you could do if you're feeling concerned about something on the internet. I always say that the best thing I think you could always do is to tell a trusted adult. So that's, most of our cases, is going to be a parent or family member or carer. Telling a trusted adult is certainly something that I would do. But there's always going to be times, isn't there, where that trusted person isn't necessarily always going to be around. If it happens in school, for example, the first person you probably want to try and tell is a teacher. So I would definitely do those things. Okay. Here's another one of some options we could do. So the next question is, if you saw something upsetting online, would any of the following stop you telling an adult? So think about these things. Would any of these things stop you from telling an adult? So again, you can pop your hand up if this applies to you, what you think. So the first one would, they might take away your device and stop you using the app in the first place, or the game or sites, and cut down your screen time. Would that stop you from telling an adult? What about they might monitor more what I do online? They might follow me online or check my device more. Another option might be they might overreact or be angry with me. Or they might tell someone else. Or maybe you don't know what they would do, and maybe that would worry you. Maybe if you just need to toughen up. Or you might be worried you might get someone else in trouble. It might be none of these. There might be another option. Maybe you want us to again stop the video and think of another option that might stop you from telling someone. Now, I think for children, probably the most sort of popular answer would probably be the top one. That they're worried that if they tell an adult that they've come across something that's upsetting or worrying, they might be worried that they're going to be in trouble themselves and they're going to have their device taken away from them, or limit how much time they're on the internet. But I know definitely that any adult that you go to and talk to them about your concerns are going to be more concerned that you've been unsettled and that you're worried about something, and they'd want to help you. And remember, the adults in our lives, their number one concern is they care about you and they want the best for you. So I always think it's really important that, like in all things in our lives, that it's really important to be honest. So if something does come online that is worrying and concerning to you, then I think it's always really important that you share that with the care of those people in your lives who care about you, so they can protect you. Okay, so here we've got 3 statements, and let's do an agree, disagree, or don't know. So we'll do a quick vote. So first one, it's important to be online even if you have to put up with things like bullying or scary stuff. Do you agree, disagree, or don't know? So have a little class vote, and you might have a quick chat about why. And the second option is, it's easier to keep quiet when things go wrong online. Okay, and the last one is, if the first person I speak to isn't helpful, I should speak to someone else. Okay, so it'd be interesting to see what you guys think. I think the top one is very important. I think the internet is something that's such a fantastic tool for us. And I think it's important that we all get a chance to be online and use it for the positive things that it offers, and not be afraid to use it because of the negative things that can happen, because we can teach ourselves and help each other to protect one another online, and use the positive things about it. And it's up to all of us to help each other and stop things like bullying and the scary stuff so it doesn't happen. And I think the middle one is, it is quite an easy thing to sometimes ignore it and think, well, if I keep quiet when something goes wrong online, it means I won't get into trouble. But that's not going to solve the problem, is it? I think the bottom one's quite interesting. If the first person I speak to isn't helpful, I should speak to someone else. I think if there's someone who you first speak to and they can't stop and listen to you, or they can't help you to resolve the situation, then again, it's always good to talk to another trusted adult as well. Okay, so what we're going to do today, guys, is for our computer, and we're going to think about the internet more, and we're going to think about how the internet works in a bit more detail. So I'm just going to quickly share my screen. So we're going to think about the internet. So the first thing is, I want you to think about, what is the internet? And explain what you think it might be. So have a quick chat with the people around you. What do you think the internet is? And do you think everyone everywhere has access to the internet? Do you know what devices and resources are needed to access the internet? And you might want to look around the classroom, or think about school or home, think about what internet connected devices you might have. And there's so many now. The obvious ones are things like computers, laptops, phones, tablets. But what other things in your house or things in school are connected to the internet? And the last question is, how do you think they connect to the internet? How do they work? How do they actually get connected to the internet? So let's have a little think about our school. I wonder if you can make an estimate. So good guess. How many internet-enabled devices do you think there are in our school? So think about every single classroom and then offices as well, maybe. Maybe there's the hall, staff rooms. I wonder how many places, how many things in our school are connected to the internet. Well, if we look in our class, Achieving class or Oxford class, for example, you've probably got the laptop that belongs to the teacher that's connected to the internet. You've got a bank of iPads. There might be some pupil laptops as well. So that could be as many as 7, 8, 9 pieces of equipment that's connected to the internet. We've got a class camera that's connected to the internet. So that's going to be 8 or 9 devices now, probably. The interactive whiteboard is also connected to the internet now as well. So you could have at least 9 or 10 devices connected to the internet in one room. And if you think about how many classrooms there are in every class, there's years 1 to 6, and there's 2 classes in each one, so that's 12 classes, and then there's 2 classes in foundation stage. So if every single room had 10 items in, we're talking over 140 devices that are connected to the internet, and that's just the classrooms. So how do all those things, how do they connect to the internet? And you might think about things you've got at home, how they connect to the internet as well. That's what we're going to talk about today. Skip through this. So the first way that we can connect things to the internet is something through something called wired networking. And remember, a network just means things that are connected together, working together. So the internet is lots and lots of computers all around the world that are linked together, they're networked. And so the most basic way that you can connect things is through wires. So here's our picture of a wire. Through the wire, there's different cables, and you plug these in and you connect them. And this is a network of cables. Okay, now these cables here that you see here, I've got sort of this sort of clear box on the end. You can sort of see there's this little sort of clippy bit here. This is called an Ethernet cable. You might have these at home, and you can plug these into many devices, and these will then connect to the internet. Now, if you've got a network of computers within a place, a setting, that is something called a local area network, or a LAN for short. Our school has a local area network. All the computers in the school are linked together in this LAN network. And that means they can communicate with each other, and so that if a teacher decides they want to put some work on the network, another teacher can access that work at the same time. So that's one way you can connect to the internet. Another way you can connect to the internet is through this box here. This is probably something you might recognize a little bit more. And this is a router. I wonder how many of you have got one of these at home. So this is a router. And this is a bit like a port. Now, if you think about the port we've been looking at in geography, a port is the place that boats can go to offload and take on items and take them away. So in a way, a router is a bit like a port, but for cables. You can put cables in, plug them into this router, and the router communicates to all the other computers around the world and connects it to the internet. So you can see here there's 4 cables connected. Can you see in the box? It says LAN 1, LAN 2, LAN 3, LAN 4. So this allows you to connect one computer to the local area network, and there's 4 slots to connect them. So these are just plugs that you connect in, and they communicate to the internet. And these are called Ethernet ports because these are Ethernet cables. And this allows any computer or device that's connected to this router, allows them to connect them to the internet. Now you might see here, there's another little symbol here that says WAN. We'll talk about that a little bit more later on. Okay, Something you might notice, if you're in a computing room, you might see this one. There's another device that you can connect to the internet, and this is called a switch, okay? This is a large network. So sometimes if you've got a large network of lots and lots of computers all in one area, sometimes the router hasn't got enough ports for them. You need more space. So this is called a switch. Sometimes it's also known as a hub, okay? And this allows lots of devices all to communicate across the same network, and they can share things like printers, for example, or scanners, and they are all on the same network. So this happens in our school. All the laptops are connected to the switch, and the switch then communicates information, for example, like the printer in Oak, for example. So then we can send things to the printer so they can be printed. Normally, a switch or a hub will have 12 or 24 local area ports. So lots more computers can be connected to them. And then this switch would then be connected to the router, and the router allows the internet to then communicate with all these different computers. So this is a bit like a big router. Now this is something you all probably will recognize, because I reckon most of you will have one of these at home. And this is a wireless networking router. So most of us these days, our devices are wireless, which means we can connect to the internet without having to plug it into a router with a cable. So what happens is this is a wireless router. You can see here it's got this aerial that sticks out the top, and this aerial sends radio wireless connections. So it's sending radio waves, and then it will find other places with antenna that can read it, and it sends that information through, and it allows the information to be processed. So I've got one of these in my house. I'm sure some of you got ones just like this in your house. And these don't necessarily need ports. So before we talked about these ports, we have to plug in a wire. Some of these wireless ones, you don't need the ports. It just connects it wirelessly, which are a little bit more beneficial. Have a think about why having wireless ports is probably a lot easier than having wired ports. So believe it or not, computers that run on the internet didn't always use wireless technology. They used to be all wired. That means you can't move your things around very easily. It means you have to stay close to where the cable is. Whereas this way, you can walk around, you've got more flexibility, there's no wires to trip over. So it's a lot more flexible, a lot more convenient for us. So lots of schools and lots of homes and lots of hospitals and offices all use wireless devices, and we can use them to communicate with each other. So Wi-Fi signals are sent through the air. And remember, Wi-Fi just means wireless connectivity. So you can connect to a Wi-Fi network, a bit like a LAN network. Now, because Wi-Fi signals are sent through the air, it's very easy to connect to a Wi-Fi network, but this can sometimes be a serious security risk, because they're much more easier to intercept those radio signals. So that's why it's really important for these Wi-Fi networks to have a password. So if next time you're home, if you've got one of these wireless boxes, you'll notice on the back of the wireless box, you'll have a password. And that's to stop anybody from accessing the Wi-Fi signal and then using the internet that they shouldn't be using. So what I wanted to do is we're going to do a diagram showing how networks and how the internet works in our school, okay? And to do that, we're going to do a program called ToChart. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to my Purple Mash home screen. I'll show you where you can find it. So when you're on your Purple Mash home screen, you will need to go to the computing app. And then you're looking for this app here. It says ToChart. I'm going to click on that and press launch. Okay, and we're going to do a blank chart. And a blank chart basically means we can then create our own charts. And you can see down the side here, we've got lots of different shapes, okay, that we can access and create a chart of all the different ways we can connect to the internet on a network. So the first thing I want to do though is I want to talk about the internet itself. And the internet is a global network. It runs all around the world. So I would like to choose a picture. Now I could select a circle and pretend that's a picture of a world. But if you go to the top here, in this clip art box, we've got a lot of different clip art pictures that we can select. These are all animals. And if you go down the arrow, there's lots of different options that we could use. Okay, so I'm going to type in, let's type in globe. And I've got some options here. I think this one's quite nice, so I'll select that one. So this is going to represent the internet. And so that I know that's the internet, you can label it. So I'm going to label it with some text. So down here, I can put the text in. And I want to make it a little bit bigger, so I'm just going to stretch it a little bit bigger. And in the text box, I'm going to write internet. And if I want to, I can make it bigger. So let's make it a bit bigger so we can see it a bit better. Let's try again. There we go. So there's my internet. Okay. Now, the internet is going to communicate to a router. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just select another box here. I'm going to drag it down there. I'm going to stretch it out a little bit, and I'm going to type in there. Let's see if I can type in there. Ooh, if I double click it, you can type in it. I'm going to type in router. Router. And again, if you highlight it, you can then make it bigger or smaller text. There we go. I might make it a little bit smaller. There's my router box. Now, we talked about how with Wi-Fi signals, sometimes those boxes can sometimes be easy to access and they can cause a security risk. In our school, we have something that's very clever that helps to protect us from things from the internet getting to our school router and through our network. Okay, and the name for this is called a firewall. Now, it's not a literal firewall. It's not a wall that's burning, but it's called a wall because it protects us from from images and content that are not appropriate for us at school. Okay, so it's really, really good to have it in school. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to type in, let's type in wall. Here's a picture of a wall. And I'm going to have that here. Oops. So I made a mistake because it's added it to the router. I don't want to add to the router. So if I just, there we go. I'm just going to try again. Wall. There we go. And so we have a firewall. And the firewall stops anything inappropriate from getting through to us onto our computers at school. So again, I'm just going to type in text and type in firewall. Let's move it up here. Firewall. Now, this is a really clever program because we can easily draw arrows that shows things linking with each other. So can you see when I hover over pictures or text boxes, we get these blue arrows appear. So if I move my mouse over and select my arrows, can you see how my mouse changes to a cross? That means I can then connect it to something. Can you see here? So I can move it around like that and I can connect it. And if I move it over, can you see how it's changed it to a box or to a green circle? It just means that's connected to that picture now. So it shows that the internet is going to the firewall. Now, at the minute, the arrow is pointing that way. And what I want to do is I want to show the internet is actually connecting through to the firewall. It's the other way around. So I'm going to do the other way around that way, like that. And I also want to connect it to my router. So there we go. So this shows got the internet. It goes through the firewall. The firewall takes away, it filters all the bits that are not appropriate. And then we get to our school router. And then the router is then going to be connected to our Wi-Fi router. So that is a bit like a wireless router that we have. So I'm just going to choose another text box. I'm going to put in Wi-Fi router. Let's make it a bit bigger. There we go. And the Wi-Fi router is then going to connect to all our devices. So this is where you can have a bit of fun and think about, right, what devices are there in our school? So lots of teachers have laptops. So if I go to the clip art and go down, and there's a section that says computers. And in the computer section, there's loads of different types of pictures we can use. I'm going to choose this one as a laptop. It looks just like my laptop. So I'm going to connect that one. So we have laptops in school. I'm going to put it there. What else might it be? It might be like a tablet maybe. So let's see what else we've got. We've got phones. Well, each class has a camera, which looks a bit like a phone. So let's have that in. We'll have that. And we'll put that in there as well. You might have tablets as well. But you can put some other items there that connect to it. And again, we can connect them to the router. So let's have, these are connected to the router. And that's connected to the router. So we'll do that. There we go. And then also the Wi-Fi router is connected to the main router. So we'll do that. So we're getting a bit more of a network now. Now we talked about a switch, didn't we? That switch is connected. So if there's lots of devices need to be connected up to it, we can connect it all together. So let's call this a switch. And the switch is connected to the router. And from the switch, we've got lots of other things. So we could have things like, for example, a printer. So let's go to here. Let's see, we've got a printer there. So we've got a printer. And we might have like desktop computers, for example. All the computers in the computing room are going to be connected to the switch. So let's have some desktop computers like the computing room, and we'll drag them up there as well. Where's my printer gone? Oh, it's disappeared. I'll get another printer. But you can start to see that we can start to create this image of all the different networks in our school. And there's a printer. Okay. So this is what I want you to do. I want you to try and create your own version of this where you are talking about the network in our school. Okay, you can use any pictures you like, but try to make sure they're linked to the network. And you can play around with the text. You can play around with the fonts and the color and the style if you want to. As long as it's nice and clear, that's what we're after. Okay, so make sure you save it. So you can go and press save in the purple box up here. Press save at any time, okay, so that you don't lose your work at the end of the lesson. Okay, guys, so that's your task for today's computing. I hope you have a lovely, lovely day in school. If you finish this early, I know that I know Mrs. Reeves and Mr. Reynolds might have your passwords to go onto EdgeShed and also Times Table Rockstars. So you can go into them and work onto those apps as well. And I also hope you have a lovely afternoon in Forest School, and I'll see you soon. So take care, everyone, and I'll see you later.